Hello? Ooh, this is so good. Ooh, Oh, I'll tell you what. Bonjour! Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. And welcome to the Great Quarantine. I don't know how to juggle. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Great Quarantine Baking Show. It's a Great Quarantine Baking Show! My name is Ryan, and I am so excited. I am way pumped about our episode because this is a recipe that I remember watching on the Great British Baking Show and thinking to myself, wow, that looks really hard. So why not do it for all you lovely people? Now this recipe was featured on Pudding Week, which I thought was bizarre, but Pudding Week, and we're doing strudel. The great strudel. 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 Yeah, the strudel. It's like a strudel. Let's get started. Now this is a very versatile recipe. This is something that you can fill with practically anything you want. You can make it savory, you can make it sweet. Today we're going super classic with the apple strudel because, first of all, it's my first time ever doing a strudel, so I want to just go back to the basics, back to the classics. And I love cinnamon and apple. It's the perfect citrus, sweet, comforting flavors that we look for in a baked good. So, without any ado, it's time for the strudel. That was like Scottish and Irish. It's like if Shrek were baking. New show idea. All right, gang, the first thing that we want to do with our strudel is make our filling. I've taken my frozen dough out of the freezer and I've let it thaw out all afternoon, because if you try to take it out straight out of the freezer and unwrap it while it's frozen, it's going to crack and crumble and turn into a huge mess, and it ain't gonna be cute. Because you definitely won't get a strudel out of it. You might get some weird ball of something delicious, but not a strudel. We're gonna start with a beautiful green apple. Now I chose green because green has a lot more bite and acidity and flavor. The more sour the apple, I think generally the better in baking something like an apple pie. It just contrasts really beautifully with the butter and light brown sugar and pastry. It really pops. So this is my chosen cooking apple. And all we're gonna do, we're going to peel it, use my little core it, slice, slice, slice into thin slices. Ooh, yeah, it smells so sour. And now we take our little core, or if you don't have one, if you have an apple core out the center, or just cut it in half and cut out the seeds. Oh, I haven't used one of these in several years, but they're perfect. Why would you want anything different? Good thing we're not using this. No one saw that. And now take a knife and just thinly slice your apples. You and me and you, both of us together. And just give these a nice thin slice. Be very careful not to cut your fingers off. This was the episode where John cut open his finger during this challenge. No, I'm kidding. Not something to joke about. Beautiful. All right, so our apples are thinly sliced and now ready to go into a bowl. Just take them here, toss them into a nice clean bowl. Fab, fab, fab. Get rid of this. All right, now that we have our apples in a gorgeous little bowl, we're going to add in our cinnamon and our sugar. Now I have 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon and 75 grams of light brown sugar. Now, if you don't have light brown sugar and you only have dark brown sugar, that will work just as fine. It just kind of affects the little bit of the flavor. You'll get a darker, sort of molassesy flavor if you use dark as opposed to light. That's the only difference. And give it a good mix around. Fab. No. Set it aside. Now for the exciting part. It's time to fill our phyllo dough. You can see the apples were very easy to coat. This is the tricky part. Here we go. Now this is a little trick that I'm going to try out. I've noticed in the episode when they were making their homemade dough, they had a huge work surface, and basically you work by pulling and making the dough stretch on its own till you get it so thin, they say that you can read the Bible through it or a piece of paper. When you have it store-bought, they do it for you. So all we need is 4 sheets of the phyllo dough. Now, you'll notice on the box, there's like 80 sheets. There's a lot of sheets. However, there's no way that you're going to get a store-bought box with a perfect sheet for all 80 sheets. It's impossible to get all the sheets perfectly untorn, unbroken from each box. Impossible. Unless you're super lucky, in which case, buy a lottery ticket and give me some of that money. And all we need is 4 sheets of our phyllo dough. I have already pre-torn. Oh, see, already I'm breaking them. These are our beautiful pastry dough. You'll notice they're paper thin and super delicate. So you want to be extra careful when working with these. Make sure they are at room temperature, not too hot, definitely not frozen, otherwise they will break. So here we go. I have also put down, you may notice, I've also put down a long train of wax paper. I'm doing this just so I have something to help roll the dough along, so I'm not having to like scrape or if it gets stuck to here. Something to help you along moving and rolling. I'll show you in a sec. It'll all make sense, I hope. All right, number 1. And we're going to take a pastry brush, take our melted butter, which was just our half a stick of butter melted, and give it a nice paint job. This is going to be what not only binds the pastry together, but also gives it that buttery flakiness, gives you those defined layers. The butter is going to help us out. Yummy butter. All right, first layer, buttered. Time to add the second layer. Take another sheet. Woo! Woo! And just lay it right on top and repeat the process. And you'll just repeat this process 2 more times till all 4 sheets are used up. All the layers are now buttered. It's ready to have the filling added to the top. So all we're gonna do is take our apple mixture and just generously pour it on an even layer onto the top quarter of the dough. Now when you're looking at your dough, you want the short end of the rectangle facing you. So you don't want to do the long end, otherwise you just get a very long strudel with a very thin amount of filling on the inside. And we want a good amount of filling. So you just want it to have a nice even layer across. All right, and don't forget, we have raisins. We have about 1/3 cup of raisins, 50 grams of raisins. Now in the recipe, they use sultanas, but I'm actually going to use raisins, which is essentially the same thing. Just generously right over the top. Yummy. All right. Moment of truth. This is the part that I'm dreading. This is why I use this wax paper, because that's going to help us move as opposed to our hands trying to crumble it and can poke holes. Any holes that you make in your dough is chance for liquid and flavor to burst out. A, it doesn't look pretty, and B, you're losing all of that gooey goodness that should be inside and is now burning on the outside. Here we go. Nice and careful, nice and easy. You have a log. She's rolled up. It did it. It didn't break, it didn't tear. All right, we have our beautiful log ready to bake. I've got my oven preheated at 350. We just have to transfer this to a parchment-lined baking sheet and get it in the oven. Ta-da! 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 All right, it's centered onto our baking sheet here, like so. Now it just needs a little butter bath with our remaining butter. I tried not to use all of the butter because you want to save some for its beautiful top. And this, go cray-cray. You go crazy with the butter, all over there. Yeah, you want the butter to be all over the log. Because once it's all on the logs, that's what's going to give it its nice golden brown in the oven. It's quite delicious once it's in the oven. All right, use every last inch of this butter as I can to really make sure it's nice and gorgeously golden. Voila! That was a good one. Okay, let's get this gorgeous beauty in the oven and let her cook for 30 to 35 minutes. Usually middle rack, way to go. Let's do it. Hey Google, set a timer for 30 minutes. I want to be where the strudel is. I want to see it, strudel. If I were a strudel, 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 strudel. Babo! Hey Google, stop timer. All right, so it's out of the oven, and now we basically just want to put it on a cooling rack. It's nice and perfect and crisp and golden, but it needs to cool completely. So I just put it on a little wire cooling rack, let it cool completely, and then we're going to dust it with some powdered sugar, crack it open, see what's inside. You ruined it. there you have it. Okay, I can't wait to try it. I can't wait any longer, so let's get on in here. Do you hear that? Wow, that's when you know it's cooked well. You hear each layer like crackling like that. Ooh, so good. Look at that, look at all those little flakes. Wow. I don't even know why I got a plate or a fork, because I'm just gonna pick this up with my hands. Not a soggy bottom. Our Queen Mary Berry would be so proud. Sheer perfection. Ooh, the tanginess of that green apple, that's the perfect apple to use because you get that strong sour tartness mixed in with the gooey, like caramelized sugar in there. Oh, wow. I could eat this whole thing in one sitting. That, my friends, is a really good apple strudel. And not nearly as difficult as I thought it was going to be.
Coronavirus!
You guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and we'll see you next week on the Great Quarantine Baking Show. I'm gonna go pass out. Strudel!